So, a memorial service for the civil rights leader Jesse Jackson recently became the center of a pretty intense political debate. And it all kicked off after a really pointed monologue from conservative commentator Officer Tatum. We're going to break down exactly what was said and how a funeral became a flashpoint for a much, much bigger conversation. Okay, so the service started with a very clear request from Jesse Jackson's family. The plea was simple, leave the politics at the door. They asked everyone there, no matter their political background, to just focus on remembering the man, not on turning it into a partisan debate. But here's the thing. According to Officer Tatum, that plea was completely ignored. He argues that several speakers got up to the podium and just launched into political speeches. He saw this as a total violation of the family's wishes, and in his mind, it turned what should have been a moment of remembrance into a political rally. And that's what triggered his very unfiltered response. Now, to really get why things got so heated, you first have to hear it from the family's perspective. Jesse Jackson Jr. painted a picture of his father as this incorruptible advocate, a prophetic voice who, as he put it, never sold us out as a people. So that's the family's view of his legacy right there. Well, Officer Tatum had a completely different take. A 180-degree turn. He flat out accused Jesse Jackson Jr. of lying about his father's legacy. He countered that Jackson was actually involved in what he calls race hustling, right alongside figures like Al Sharpton. And that accusation, that's really at the very heart of this whole controversy. And Tatum's frustration didn't just stop with Jesse Jackson's legacy. Not at all. He then broadened his critique to go after the Democratic politicians who spoke at the service. So his core argument against these Democratic leaders is basically that their policies have been a massive failure for the Black community. He points to this lack of specific action, all while, in his view, they're presiding over cities where violence is out of control and other groups' needs are being put ahead of their Black constituents. And to really drive his point home, Tatum basically throws down a challenge to his audience. He asks them, can you name a single policy that these leaders have put in place specifically for Black people? His whole accusation is that their political support is just taken for granted. And in return, the community gets a lot of talk, but very few real, tangible results. All right, so after criticizing the political leaders, the speaker makes a huge shift. He turns his focus inward and directs his critique at the Black community itself. And believe me, this part of his monologue is by far the most provocative. This right here is the absolute core of his thesis. He says that while a lot of leaders point to external forces, things like white supremacy as the main roadblock, he believes the real primary threats are internal. He lists things like crime, the breakdown of the family, and what he terms a victim mentality as the much bigger challenges. And this is his argument boiled down to its most shocking statement. He claims that both historically and right now, no group has done more harm to Black people than Black people themselves. He tries to back this up by pointing to homicide statistics, arguing that the internal violence is a far greater threat than any historical external one. He then kind of breaks down what he sees as these really crippling internal challenges. He calls crime an epidemic. He points to what he sees as a culture of silence around abuse within families. And he even brings up this idea of Black flight, where successful folks leave their communities behind. And on top of that, he points to what he feels is a widespread victim mentality and the absence of fathers as really foundational problems. So you have to ask, how does the speaker see his own role in all of this? How does he deliver such a difficult message? Well, he doesn't see himself as just a critic. No, he positions himself as a truth teller, someone who is saying what he believes everyone else is too afraid to say out loud. And he tackles his critics head on here. He fully acknowledges that he gets labeled a sellout a lot, but he completely reframes that accusation. From his point of view, that label is just what people call him for having the guts to say these uncomfortable truths, especially, as he puts it, in front of white people. And this is his why. This is his stated motivation. He claims that this incredibly harsh critique isn't coming from a place of hate, but from love and deep frustration. He says he sees all this incredible, untapped potential just being thrown away, and his words are meant to be a kind of tough love to hopefully spark some change from within. So what do we make of all this? Look, whether you agree with him or not, his monologue represents a viewpoint that's definitely getting louder, especially in some conservative and online circles. It really challenges the traditional political lines and forces a very difficult conversation. So the big question it leaves us with is this: what does the existence of this perspective reveal about the complex, evolving, and really diverse nature of political thought within Black America today?